The night the lawsuit dropped, Los Angeles felt colder than usual. Blake Lively had not slept properly in weeks. She sat alone in the glass-walled office of her attorney on the 32nd floor of a Century City tower, watching the city shimmer below like spilled diamonds. The complaint was 87 pages long. Every paragraph felt like pulling a bandage off a wound that had never been allowed to close. She had spent months telling herself she could endure the whispers, the sideways glances on set, the way certain crew members suddenly found reasons to look away when she walked past craft services. She told herself it was the price of making a film about surviving abuse, that the irony was just that sharp. But some nights the irony tasted like blood in her mouth. Across town, in a house high in the Hollywood Hills that looked more like a fortress than a home, Justin Baldoni read the same document on an iPad while standing barefoot on cold marble. The screen lit his face the color of a crime scene. He kept rereading the same sentence. Defendant Baldoni engaged in a pattern of sexual harassment and retaliation. He laughed once, short, involuntary, the way people do when a door slams on their fingers. Then he stopped laughing because the walls of his house were very thin and his children were asleep upstairs. The film had been called It Ends With Us from the beginning, a title that now sounded like a threat. It started small, the way earthquakes do. A joke on set that lingered half a second too long. A hand on the small of her back that guided when it didn't need to guide. A private meeting in his trailer to discuss character motivation that left her staring at the ceiling for an hour afterward, trying to decide if she had imagined the shift in temperature. She told herself directors were intense. She told herself the book was raw, the subject matter brutal, everyone was on edge. She told herself a lot of things. Then came the day he improvised a scene, something not in the script, something about power and submission, and he leaned in so close she could smell the mint gum on his breath. The camera kept rolling. The crew kept quiet. When the AD finally yelled cut, nobody clapped. Nobody ever clapped anymore. She went to the producers. She went in writing. She used words like hostile environment and retaliation. They promised to handle it. Instead, they scheduled more intimate scenes. Instead, they sent her revised pages at 2 a.m. with new stage directions that made her stomach fold in on itself. Instead, they reminded her, gently, how much money was already spent. How many women were waiting to see this story told correctly. So she hired her own monitor. She brought her husband to set on days she felt the air thinning. She started timing how long she could stay in a room alone with Justin before an excuse arrived to save her. She began to lose weight she didn't have to lose. She smiled for the paparazzi outside the studio gate and then sat in her car with the engine off, practicing breathing until the tunnel vision passed. Justin felt the temperature drop too, but from the other side. Crew members who once high-fived him now offered tight-lipped nods. His requests for script changes were met with silence, then emails that copied 17 people. He told his therapist it felt like the entire production had turned on him overnight. His therapist asked what he thought he might have done to cause that. He said he was only trying to protect the integrity of the story. He said some truths were uncomfortable. He said a lot of things. The movie wrapped. The press tour began, and that was when the mask finally slipped all the way off. In a junket interview, Justin spoke about healing generational trauma and looked directly into the camera as if the lens were her eyes. Blake watched the clip on her phone in a hotel bathroom in Toronto, door locked, makeup half applied, and felt something inside her calcify. That same week, a cut of the film screened for test audiences. The version they saw was not the version she had fought for. Whole scenes she had begged to keep, scenes that showed the slow, insidious build of control, were gone. In their place, tighter close-ups of her crying, lingering shots that made the violence feel almost glamorous. She called it sabotage. He called it pacing. She stopped doing press. She posted a single Instagram story, a broken heart emoji, and a link to a domestic violence hotline. The internet detonated. Within hours, think pieces bloomed like mold. Half the world decided she was a spoiled actress weaponizing trauma for publicity. The other half decided he was a predator hiding behind art. Almost nobody asked what actually happened on that set, because by then the truth had been painted over with so many coats of narrative that nobody could find the original wall. The lawsuit was the last brick she had left to throw. When Justin received the summons, he sat in his car in the driveway for 43 minutes without turning the engine on. Then he called his lawyer and said, "They're trying to erase me." His lawyer, a woman who had seen every kind of Hollywood war, told him calmly that erasure and accountability were two different things. He hung up and cried so hard he couldn't breathe. Discovery began. Text messages surfaced like bodies dragged from a lake. Notes from panicked producers. A grainy video of Justin mocking Blake's anxiety attacks to a producer who laughed too loudly. An email from Blake to the studio head that ended, "I no longer feel safe. Do something or I will." Schedules showing how her call times were mysteriously extended whenever Justin decided he needed one more take. Calendar invites to meetings she was never told about, meetings where they discussed how to manage her. And then, because no story this poisoned ends neatly, Justin filed his own suit. $400 million. Extortion. Defamation. A claim that Blake and Ryan Reynolds had orchestrated a smear campaign to wrest creative control and bury him forever. He held a press conference on the steps of his lawyer's office and spoke about cancellation as the real abuse. Some people cheered. Some people sent him death threats. Most people just refreshed their feeds, waiting for the next document dump. 17 months later, on a morning so clear the smog felt like a lie, both sides walked into the federal courthouse in downtown Los Angeles. Blake wore quiet white. Justin wore quiet black. Cameras caught the moment their eyes met across the marble corridor. Two people who once spent 12 hours a day pretending to love and destroy each other, now doing it for real, without a script to hide subplot behind. The judge has sealed the settlement terms. The film still streams. Sometimes late at night, people argue in the comments about who the real villain was. Most of them have never met either actor. Most of them never will. But somewhere in the hills, a fortress stands empty. And somewhere across town, a little girl asks her mother why the lady from the Flower movie looks sad in all the old pictures. Her mother closes the laptop, kisses the top of her head and says, "Because sometimes, baby, the story keeps going long after the cameras stop rolling." Thanks for watching.